My name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to the update I always wanted to make, kind of. In January of 2021, I posted the video, the update I really didn't want to make, in which I announced that I would be soft closed to review requests for the foreseeable future, for a considerable amount of time. Most of the time when I close, it's only for a month or two, so I can catch up and then I open again, but in that time I saw that it would have to be longer, and so I was soft closed, meaning that I would only accept review requests from authors that I had already reviewed before. Now, to be honest, I broke that at least a couple times over the preceding year. However, those were very specific cases for very short books. But I always imagined that when I opened again, it would be like this big thing. I would come on and I'd be so excited and I'm going to read all the review books and cool life updates. That's not what this video is. Now, I am open to review requests again. And I know that a lot of people watching this are literally only interested in that. However, I am not going to give you a timestamp to skip forward to what I am looking for, because I need y'all to understand why a no is going to be very likely from me moving forward with the context of my life. Now, I must have had some kind of hidden precognition in that video, because I thought the only reason I would need to go on this kind of semi-hiatus was because that I had a baby in the house, a month old at the time. And I was like, well, clearly this is going to be a lot of work, so I thought I'm going to have to pull back on a lot of my hobbies, including review books and posting booktube videos. I did not foresee what the year was going to turn into. In fact, looking back on it is kind of darkly comedic, because I even joke about the fact that, oh, it's not what you think. I'm a happy foster parent. There's no big diagnoses. That is not the case anymore. We are still foster parents. We are still working on renewing our license for the next year, but the baby left our house in May of 2021, and to our credit, we had not prepared as we should have. There were certain workers that had made not outright promises, but allusions to promises of possibilities of adoption. And we were blindsided, had no idea it was coming. There was no warning when he was suddenly moved out of town. And it hit us a lot harder than we were expecting. So we have not fostered since. Still recovering, still want to, but every call that comes in, there's a knee-jerk reaction of no, not again. So that probably won't be a thing for a while. And then on top of that, work situations got really difficult. I had to call 911 multiple times at work, working with neurodivergent and special ed kids. I had to break up fights. I came home bleeding. It was bad. And then we had medical diagnoses. Through many tests, I got diagnosed with PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome, mostly known for its fertility issues, but also has like insulin issues and stuff. And so this year was a lot. I had to quarantine over Thanksgiving. It was... Now, I have made some strides in moving forward. Like I mentioned before, I am taking meds. I have switched to a different school in the district, wherein the processes for responding to violent children run a lot more smoothly, and therefore there is less danger. So I'm working on it. I am moving forward. But the hardest realization of this year is I'm not out of the woods yet. That I've begun things, I've changed things, we are moving forward, but it won't be over for quite some time. Hence why this isn't the update I wanted to make, because I wanted to be all over the place and whee! I didn't want to be holding back tears in this video. And I know a lot of people are probably watching this and being like, well, Margaret, if you are in such an emotional state, why are you opening again to review requests at all? Why are you going to pour more time into your booktube? And that is because this is my coping mechanism. I do productive things for serotonin when I am at a serotonin deficit in other areas. as a result of this, I am going to be putting more time and effort into reading review books and putting more effort into booktube videos that are not just review videos. More discussions, maybe more reading vlogs. I really want to make a really long video essay on why Ice Planet Barbarians is actually a sci-fi horror, but that is way down the road. However, because of the mental state that I am in, I am going to be more likely to say no than I have ever been before to review requests. And I know I have said that so often. I know I've been like, oh, I'll be really likely to say no, just FYI, because I think that if I basically lampshade the fact that I'm going to say no, I'll feel less guilty when I actually reply no to an email in my inbox, and it never works. I always still feel guilty, but I really need people to understand that I am going to be very specific with things that I say yes to moving forward, because I need the serotonin of completing books that I can talk about in at least mostly positive ways. This is not to say that every book is going to be a perfect 5-star universal praise, but I need the books to be a source of joy and not feel like a job, because I don't need extra weight right now. So, with that being said, the emotional part more or less over. Let's move on to what am I actually accepting? All right, so we'll start with the universal no's first, just to get them out of the way. I am still not a very good fit for the vast majority of high fantasy. Now, that being said, it is not that I will say no unequivocally to all high fantasy, but it needs to be different. And when I say different, I mean not straight or not white. I need it to be set in non-white worlds, and that could be anything from African-inspired countries, Asian-inspired countries. I haven't actually read a lot of like South American-inspired fantasy. That could be fun. Or I need like queer or disabled characters at the forefront. Like literally, like if it's an ensemble cast, there needs to be multiple characters of some kind of marginalization in the group or the protagonist. Don't give me like a side character that comes halfway through the book. And if you honestly believe that your high fantasy is so different, please say specifically why. Don't just tell me it's different. I've had a lot of authors tell me that when they send review requests, and then I read through the synopses and I'm like, I have read 10 other synopses that sound just like this. How is this different? But if you're turning a trope on its head, i.e., taking a character that would traditionally be a side character in a high fantasy and making them the point of view character, you know, like the best friend of the chosen one instead of the chosen one or something like that, that kind of trope turning. But that's it. High fantasy is a very hard gamble for me, especially with the state my brain is in right now. Deep lore makes everything go jumbled. But I am always up for queer, disabled, or people of color in the world. Sometimes all three. I am also not a great fit for anything set in a boarding school, any kind of magical school, and anything involving chosen ones. And I know that might have knocked out a lot of YA, even in the indie sphere, but one, I work in a school, so the kind of lackadaisical nature that is inherent to the teaching staff of magic schools to let their students end up in these big battles never sits right with me. I can never stretch my willing suspension of disbelief that far, because I know what it is to be responsible for kids in a school setting. And I always like, wow, all the teachers here suck. And as for the chosen one, I've never really been the biggest fan of it. The idea of you're special because you were born special has never rung true for me. The idea of someone becoming a notable figure in this story because specifically their actions, their growth, and their determination get them there has always interested me more. Also, prophecies in a story, kind of hit or miss for me. I like prophecies that set up the conflict without the solution. Without. like 10 years from now, big bad dude will rise up and cause chaos. Cool, awesome, go for it. Don't then add like, and then this other dude will come and defeat them, and who is this other dude? Surely it can't be the protagonist. It's always the protagonist. That could be fun though. I would love a book where the chosen one was someone with this completely random side character, not the protagonist at all. I don't know how people would market that book though. Regardless, a lot of those kinds of tropes are not a good fit. I also don't do great for magic realism, like, at all. How do I say this? I am not opposed to Omegaverse concepts as a whole. However, I don't do anything with non-con or dub-con, or as we call them in the regular world, sexual assault. And the fact that those have been made into tropes for an entire genre is highly disturbing to me. Anything that portrays an act of sexual assault as being not that bad or justified in the narrative will get immediately DNF'd every time. Every single time. I have immediately DNF'd books I was liking because of that. So that's what I'm really not looking for. So what am I looking for? What do I really want to see in my inbox? First and foremost, there are a couple genres that are universal yeses, more or less. Shifter romances, specifically shifter romances, not werewolf romances. And I get that that feels like splitting hairs, but basically, I want a shifter romance that might have like some light hierarchy, alpha type stuff. But if the word alpha is in the title, and it's like all about the dude being an alpha, I probably don't want it. I do not like that fake wolf turned werewolf hierarchy stuff. It's already been disproven. And I get that some people know it's disproven but still like it in werewolf books, and that's fine. I don't. If your pack has a werewolf alpha, that's fine, but like I need it downplayed in the books that I like to read. I also love space operas as a rule, especially if they're queer. I'm really looking for things with space orcs. Really want to see more orcs and things as like cool characters, not the two-dimensional brutes that high fantasy has so often painted them as. I also love sci-fi westerns, especially if they're kitschy. Kitschy sci-fi in general is my favorite. Weird alien stuff, alien romances. Huge fan. Sci-fi retellings of anything is usually a good go for me. I also love urban fantasy or fantasy that's like lower, I guess you could say. Basically like the secret world kind of fantasy where it's looks a lot like our world, but there's just some fantasy elements added in. I really like that kind of stuff. I'll read a lot of capital R romance, including erotica, including monster erotica. I recently got into that and I'm a fan. And I know a lot of people won't necessarily review that in very public ways, but sure, why not? I am also very much open to anyone from a marginalized demographic. I am actually compiling a list of genre fiction involving disabled or neurodivergent characters, specifically like the non-serious kind of fiction. So, you know, the disabled people deserve to see themselves being kick-ass zombie killers. Like, what can I say? And yes, that is on the list. Be on the lookout for that video. I am also looking for any books from marginalized demographics in the way of people of color or queer authors. Specifically, I've noticed when I looked back through my list, I am particularly lacking in Indigenous authors. I have not reviewed any Indigenous authors, which I really thought I would have by this point. And while I have reviewed some Latin and Asian authors, I really should up those numbers probably. And also, I really want to read more of non-binary and trans perspectives. I do have a couple books that I reviewed from those perspectives, but a little bit more would be nice. Basically, I want anyone to come up to me, be like, hey, do you know of any indie books with X? And I could be like, here's 10. Like, that's the end goal. And I'm getting closer to that. There are some demographics that I can do that for, but we're not there yet. So obviously it's not like you can only apply for a review if you are one of those. I do still review straight people, guys, okay? And like white people, it's just, I just really want more trans characters because that one book, whew. Regardless, my review policy should be updated. It should be as close to the moment as I can get it as of filming this. I used to say, I will get your review out in X time frame. That's gone. That any author that's been around for a hot minute might understand that you could be waiting as long as 6 months. I will try to do better. But in case you didn't watch the first half of the video for some reason, I got things going on. So I'm going to try to get these through as fast as I can. I'm going to try to have as much fun as I can with my escapism. But most importantly, when it comes to these reviews, I am only going to look for books that have the greatest chance of being a 5-star. I am essentially looking for books that could be a 5-star prediction. And there are cases in which you might tick all the boxes, but I'm not feeling it for whatever undefinable reason. So like I said before, a no is much more likely than usual. It does not mean your work is not worth it. It does not mean that you won't find other readers. I'm in a weird place right now. Regardless, thank you so much for watching whatever this video ended up being. I am excited to move forward. I am excited to see more review requests in my inbox again. I'm excited to post my review requests policy down in the description again. And here's hoping that this time next year, I get to make that wee update that I always wanted to. But with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous new year.